Now, lack of public trust and confidence has been cited as the main reason the Agyapa Mineral Royalties Agreement stalled, presenting its findings as part of a report on how political considerations impact efforts to improve governance and development outcomes of the country's extractive sector. Chair of the Civil Society Platform on Oil and Gas, Dr. Steve Mantiao, said, though the intention to optimize revenue from the sector was laudable, a series of actions and inactions on the part of government contributed to the mistrust. Joy News editor Israel Aye joins us from the workshop organized by the Star Ghana Foundation. Israel, so what are some of the actions and inactions cited for the stalling of this Agyapa agreement?
Thank you very much, Bernice. One of the main things that was brought up or was raised about how the Agyapa transaction agreements actually came into the public domain. The fact that it wasn't a matter of government coming to share with the public that this is what we intend to do, but that information filtered into the public domain and people started putting all sorts of interpretations into it. And it was then that government was forced to come out to say something. And so that really was at the heart of it. And so most people thought that whatever government said at that point couldn't be trusted at that point. But I have with me Dr. Steve Mantiao, who gave that presentation at the Star Ghana Foundation event, and he's looking at the political economy and the factors that contributed to it. Thank you very much, Dr. Steve Mantiao. So we talked about why we think that you thought that this the Agyapa agreement stalled when it first came up in Ghana. But you also talk about the fact that the intention itself is not bad. I want you to explain why you believe that this is a good intent.
No, I think that it is important to recognize that globally there is scarcity of development finance. And this has been compounded by the impact of COVID-19 on the global economy. And so for a country to seek to innovate, to raise badly needed finance for our national development isn't a bad idea. And it is within this context that Agyapa was introduced. And so the idea itself isn't a bad one to the extent that it helps to preserve the value of our future royalties.
But you also indicated that the lack of transparency or the approach or how the information about Agyapa came into the public domain is one of the reasons why this thing it brought about this lack of public trust. How do you think this can be resolved now that government is saying that it's going to bring this, or the president has indicated that they're going to bring this deal back?
I think government has to learn to be proactive and not to get people to demand information before they receive it. We know in the run-up to 2020 elections, the president directed in response to the corruption risk assessment undertaken by the then special prosecutor that this whole transaction needed to be reviewed and to incorporate into it the concerns of the CSOs. One expectations we as CSOs would do have is that once the remedial actions have been taken, we'll have the opportunity to review ahead of taking these documents back to Parliament. Some consultations around it to ensure that all the concerns we have are properly addressed, will not be out of place. It helps to build public trust in whatever is being taken to Parliament. I think it's important to understand the fact that our democracy is underpinned by the principal-agent relationship principle, so that when we elect people to take decisions on our behalf, we reserve the right to be consulted on major decisions to be taken, especially in matters related to our common heritage.
Dr. Steve Mantiao in that conversation with Joy News editor Israel Aye there. Thank you very much, Israel. You're watching Joy News today with me, Bernice Abubedulamsa. Coming up shortly, Dao Kwao is standing by with the latest from the world of business.